movement is quite fundamental to life. We've got to keep moving. A river's got to keep flowing to remain fresh. Once it becomes stagnant, it stings. So we've got to keep moving in order to renew ourselves and to be better at what we do. I was born in Nigeria, in a place called Onitsha, in the southeastern part of Nigeria. And that's the part of Nigeria that in 1967 broke away and became Biafra. I grew up there, I did my primary school there, and then I went to Lagos, which was then the capital of Nigeria, where I did my secondary education. And then I went to Ilorin, which is kind of like in the middle of Nigeria, where I did my university. So I grew up, my formative years were spent in Nigeria. My interest in kind of somatic practice, in the body, use of the body, movement, kind of goes back to my early childhood. We played a lot of games, we did a lot of things that were very physical. We did somersaults in the park, we, did really crazy stuff. So I was really interested in how people moved. I remember when I was probably maybe 6 years old, we used to play this crazy game where we had these two-seater desks in school. So you've got a desk and you've got the chairs attached to the desk with a metal frame. And some of these frames combined, joining the chairs and the desk broke. And the school would kind of throw it at the backyard. And during break time, we'll gather them together and build skyscrapers. So I remember this particular day when we built up skyscrapers, about maybe 3 or 4 stories high for a child, and we'll kind of create rooms in it. So we'll climb into the spaces and play house. And this particular day we built it slightly higher. I can't remember the number of stories, but slightly higher than we used to build. And as we were playing, it collapsed. Somebody moved and everything just came tumbling down. So we all had bruises and scratches and everything else. But this particular young man broke his arm. And I remember we had to take him to the traditional chiropractors. So we brought the chiropractor to come and treat the child. And somebody went home and told the guy's dad. And he came to the school with a machete to come and hurt the people that hurt his child. And we all ran. Everybody, it was crazy afternoon that day. After my undergraduate days, I came to the UK to study for my PhD. And we had a Feldenkrais class. And it was amazing. It was a rediscovery of self. It was a rediscovery of this joy of movement. And it connected me back to the story of the traditional chiropractors. My mom was a police officer. At one point, she was living in a village called Ihiala in Anambra State in Nigeria. And in this particular place, we had this chiropractor who used to travel past our house on his bike. And on that bicycle, he tied a tortoise on the handle of the bicycle. I was always fascinated by that kind of thing. And he'd heal people of broken bones, muscle injuries and things like that. But everything was kind of masked in mysticism. But even as a child, I questioned that. I always believed it was skill-based and not spiritual. So when I experienced the Feldenkrais lesson, instantly it reminded me of those days. Feldenkrais Method is fundamentally not about religion. It's about science of the body and the mind. Moshe Feldenkrais was a physicist. So the method is based on scientific principles, and I instantly connected to it. So my science background, my childhood kind of curiosity about movement all came together, and I knew I wanted to be a practitioner, and that's where the journey started. When we are born, our nervous system is already highly developed, and there are already neural pathways that run through the nervous system that carry different impulses all around the body. And those are deep systems in the body. Now, as we grow up, we pick up different habits. And I describe those habits and things that we pick up that changes how we hold ourselves, how we sit, and all those kind of things as dusts that settle on the nervous system and kind of mask and cover those deep pathways. We create new pathways as well, which carry new impulses. But those new pathways are not as developed as the ones that we came with. So the thing about those new pathways is that they are very responsive. So they can get you out, they can do things quickly for you. But when you meet a crisis point, when you encounter trauma, they are not very good at handling shock because they are very shallow. So you have to then, your nervous system has to depend on the original pathways, which are the deeper, more resilient pathways in order to handle those kind of shocks of life. But because many people have been dusted over with all the things they've picked up in life, they can't find it, and that's why people cannot handle the shock and the trauma of shock. Now, what the Feldenkrais method does, I think, is that it's like having a fine brush and just brushing away. It doesn't get rid of the new pathways because you need it to be quick and do things. It brushes away the dust of habit, exposes your habit so that you see exactly what you're doing, choose to do it or do something else because it gives you options. So by dusting away all those things, it reveals those organic, those natural pathways in the neural system, the nervous system, and makes them available for you. So you can choose to use them. I guess the first thing to really say is that Feldenkrais is not dogmatic at all. One of the key things I really like about the Feldenkrais method is that it's really about the individual. It's about helping you to discover your own potential and give you possibilities of movement in order to be the best. I like to say it helps you to be fully human, because it's about reconnecting to what it means to be human in this world, to inhabit this body, to connect through this body to the things around us and things within us. So what I say to people is really about baby steps. Start from where you are. What movements can you do? Just begin to create time and space to do those. Now, time and space does not mean necessarily making out 1 hour when you go off somewhere else. If you commute to work, for instance, there are very simple lessons you can do on the train. Very simple lesson that is about the shoulders and about making the head to turn a bit more, which is just simply, I was taught this by Andrew Dawson, who does this very fantastic finger work. And it's really just doing that, just relaxing the hands and just doing that, tracing this line on the outside of this finger, and then going on the inside, going over the finger a couple of times, then go to the next one, do the same thing. And just go through those fingers in that way a couple of times, and then repeat that on the other finger. And when you finish doing that, you receive such freedom up here. I mean, it's just a finger. And very simple things you can do that you haven't made out time to do them and nothing else. You're doing something, you're in the office, sitting on your computer, and you're doing that. So it's really starting where it's convenient, but developing the habit. Remember, again, it's about creating habits. Developing the habit of moving. And I think that's where it starts. So I like to encourage people to always start small. Always start where it's convenient for you and build up the habit of moving. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make as human beings is that we have a bad habit that we want to stop, and we stop it, or we try to stop it without replacing it with something else. And what happens? After 1 or 2 weeks, we give up and we come back to the habit. So I like the idea of replacing a habit with a habit. So if you have a habit that you're not very comfortable with, you want to change it, find it something else that replaces it. And that's same with movement. If you're not used to moving, start little, build up the habit of moving within the spaces where you're comfortable and you find convenient. And then it becomes easy to then do the bigger things.